The night was silent in the countryside, only the sound of crickets filled the air, but then the sky tore open without a single warning. A bright beam of violet light dropped down from the clouds, swallowing two people into the air, and then vanished. As quickly as it had come, one was a man standing outside his truck, checking his tires, the other a woman sitting alone on a park bench, staring up at the stars. Both vanished in the same second, neither knowing the other existed. When they opened their eyes, they were no longer on Earth. The air was thick and tasted strange. The walls were glowing blue and pulsing like a heartbeat. The man sat up first, eyes wide, sweat rolling down his forehead. He tried to shout, but no sound came from his throat. He looked to his left and saw the woman already standing. She was confused, afraid. Her fists clenched, her eyes scanning the chamber for exits. The floor was soft like jelly. The ceiling high above them showed lights like stars swirling in unnatural patterns. Suddenly a voice echoed all around them, calm, smooth, female. You are safe for now. You have been selected based on genetic compatibility. You will help us survive. The man stumbled back. What is this? Where are we? He tried to speak, but his voice felt heavy. The woman shouted louder. Let us go. Who are you? What do you want from us? No answer came right away, only silence and the heartbeat-like pulsing of the walls. A door appeared without sound. It slid open, and mist poured through it. From the mist came a tall creature with glowing silver skin, long limbs and eyes like mirrors. She wore something that looked like a crown made of bone and light. I am the Queen of Elthra, she said, her voice entering their minds directly. Our world is dying. We have tried everything, but our kind can no longer create life. Your planet holds the keys. We lack your bodies. Carry what we lost. The man stepped forward, his fists raised. I am not some tool you can use. Get away from us. The woman grabbed his arm. Wait, we need to think. We need to understand what is happening. You were not the first, the Queen said. You may be the last. Your cooperation will decide the fate of two species. The room shifted, and a soft blue light wrapped around them, lifting them from the ground. They floated for a moment, then gently landed in a separate chamber, with beds that looked like they were alive, breathing. Slimy monitors blinked on the walls, showing DNA patterns, blood samples, and maps of Earth. A woman stared at the screen. Her photo was on it, along with her name, age, family tree, health records, all of it. How did you get this? She whispered. We have watched your planet for years, the Queen said. We only take those whose bodies can withstand the fusion. Your biology is rare and powerful. The man turned to her. What do they mean, fusion? What are they planning to do to us? Before she could answer, another figure entered the chamber. This one, smaller, more human-shaped, wearing armor and holding a silver staff. The Queen nodded. To him, this is Solon, your guardian. During your time here, he will protect and assist. Solon gave a small nod, but his eyes rested on the woman longer than expected. Something unreadable behind them. You will be tested but not harmed unless you resist. The Queen continued. You will live in comfort and honor, and when your task is done, you will be rewarded with passage home. The man growled. This is a prison, not a reward. We are not animals. The Queen looked at him with something close to sadness. We are not monsters. We are desperate. You may hate us, but know this, if you do not help us, there will be war, and your Earth will not survive. Suddenly, the lights dimmed and the ceiling split open, revealing stars that moved too fast, a galaxy rotating above them, as if to show how small they truly were. The woman sat down slowly, her thoughts racing. She did not trust them, but she also sensed no lies in the Queen's words, only pain. The man paced his hands, trembling, his breath fast. He looked around for a weapon, something, anything. Then he saw it, a panel with blinking lights. He rushed to it and slammed his fist on it. Alarm screamed. The Queen shouted, Stop, you do not understand the danger. He pulled something from the wall, a rod or a lever, and ran toward the door, but the chamber walls shifted again, trapping him in a circle of rising energy. The woman screamed his name, but he disappeared into the light. The Queen turned to her, her expression darkening. Resistance is death. And then a new door opened. Behind it stood another creature, tall, even taller than the Queen, wearing black armor covered in markings of war. He stepped inside and spoke a single word. Begin. The man stood inside the energy circle, unable to move. The light pressed against his skin like warm water, but heavier. His eyes searched for the woman, but he could not see her anymore, only a blur beyond the wall. He shouted, but the sound vanished in the glowing space around him. Then everything went quiet, and the lights slowly faded, leaving him on the floor alone, his hands clenched, his breath heavy. Back in the main chamber, the woman looked at the tall creature in black armor. His presence filled the room like thunder. Without sound, his armor had long scratches, symbols, and stains she could not understand. He stared at her for a long time before he spoke. "You will follow me now." She stood frozen, her body shaking, but she moved forward, her eyes on the queen, who gave a slow nod. The warrior turned and walked through a shifting wall. She followed him down a tunnel where the walls pulsed with faint green light like veins. They walked in silence past rooms filled with strange objects floating inside. Glass tanks, creatures half-formed or lifeless. She wanted to cry, but her body refused. She was too numb to cold inside. Finally, they stopped before a large door. "This is the truth chamber," the warrior said. "Here you will learn everything." The door opened with a soundless pull, revealing a space filled with projections, floating in the air, images, sounds, memories. She stepped inside and saw images of a once beautiful world, green rivers, flying beasts, tall towers of crystal, and laughter. Then war came. Fire fell from the sky, buildings collapsed, the alien people screamed. In silence, their faces twisted in horror. The queen was there in the visions, younger, smiling, full of hope, then crying in the ashes, holding a child who vanished in her arms. "We did this to ourselves," the warrior said. "We reached too far. We lost the ability to grow life. Then we tried to fix it, but every solution led to failure. Now we have only one path." The woman turned to him. "Why us? Why humans?" He looked at her. "Your species survived against all odds. Your biology adapted. Your people grow in numbers, even in poison and war." The woman looked at the next image. It showed Earth from space, and then a map of human DNA. It shimmered and twisted around an alien sequence, merging slowly. "Your body is strong. Your mind is stable. You can carry the future," the warrior said. She stepped back, her hands shaking. "This is wrong. You cannot take life like this. We ask for help, not slavery," the queen said as she entered the chamber. The woman stared at her. "If we say no, will you let us go?" The queen lowered her head slowly. "If you both refuse, we will search again. If we fail again, we may have no choice but to take what we need." "So you lie. You offer a choice that is not a choice," the woman said, her voice rising. The queen said nothing. Her eyes showed pain, but also deep fear. Suddenly Solon entered the chamber, the silent guard, his silver eyes glowing. He looked at the woman, and then at the queen. He spoke softly. "There is another way." The queen raised her head. "What do you mean?" "Let them decide freely, but show them the lab. Let them see the cost of every failure." The queen hesitated, then nodded. "Lead her." Solon turned to the woman. "This way, please." They walked in silence, down a narrow hall, deeper into the core of the ship. The lights grew dim, the walls no longer pulsed. They stood still, cold, lifeless. They stopped before a door, unlike the others, metal and thick, covered in strange black stains. Solon opened it and stepped inside. The woman followed, her breath caught. Inside were rows of empty pods. Many cracked or burned screens showed logs of past subjects, names, numbers, dates. Most were marked with red failure signs. Some had photos, blurry faces, eyes wide in fear. "This is the lab of ghosts," Solon said. She walked slowly past each pod, feeling their silence. They tried to force the bond, to make life grow where it could not. Most died, some broke, others escaped, but their minds were never whole again. She felt sick, her legs weak. One of the names was human. "You took more than just us," she said. Solon nodded. "Only a few. We thought it would work. We were wrong every time. The queen wants peace, but the others want results." Then she noticed something. One of the logs showed something strange, a result marked as success, but with a black seal over the file. "What is this?" she asked. Solon looked closely, his face darkened. "This file is locked, even from mesh." Touched the screen, and it flashed for a second, revealing an image of the man who was taken earlier, his face covered in light. "He is still alive," she whispered. Solon nodded. "Yes. But where they took him is not part of this ship." She turned to him. "Take me to him." He hesitated. "Please," she said, her voice cracking. He looked into her eyes, then gave a slow nod. "Come quickly. We do not have much time." And they ran into the dark. No dots, no commas, simple emotional English. "Let us continue." They ran through twisting halls where the walls changed color with every step. The air grew thicker, colder, darker. The lights overhead flickered like weak stars lost in the skies. Solon moved fast, his boots silent against the shifting floor. The woman struggled to keep pace, her heart pounding her throat. Dry, her eyes locked on his back. He stopped suddenly before a sealed gate made of thick black metal. His hand hovered over the panel, waiting. "Once we go through this, we will not be able to return," he said softly. "Then let us go," she answered. "We cannot leave him behind." The gate opened with a soundless breath, revealing stairs made of glass, leading down into a place untouched by the glow of the ship. Above, each step echoed in her bones, as if the place itself whispered warnings in a forgotten language. They reached the bottom where a dim red glow painted the room in shadows. In the center, the man was suspended in the air, held by thick strands of living metal. His eyes were shut, his chest barely moving, his skin pale. She ran to him, calling his name again, and again he did not respond. Solon touched a console, and the strands began to loosen, pulling back like vines afraid of the sun. The man fell into the woman's arms, his body weak but still breathing. "You came for me," he whispered, his voice cracked but filled with something close to hope. "Of course I did," she said, holding him tighter than she thought she could. "They were not done yet, not broken yet, not defeated yet." Zolan moved to the console again, his fingers tapping fast. "What is this place?" the man asked, still weak. "The queen does not know about this chamber," Solon replied. "It was built by the elders who believed in force, not choice. They created it in case the peaceful way failed. This is where they began their worst work." The man tried to stand, but stumbled. The woman helped him up, her strength returning as his did. "We cannot stay here," she said. "They will come looking." Solon nodded, but his eyes were not calm anymore. His hands moved faster, the walls around them trembled. "One more thing," he said. "I found the sealed fillet screen lit up beside them, showing a series of numbers, faces, names." One face appeared again, and again. The man, he stared at it in confusion. "Why?" Solon looked at him with heavy eyes. "Your body reacted with the alien material in a way no one had seen before. Your cells merged without pain. Your mind remained whole. You mean I am the first to survive? You are more than that," Solon said. "You may be the key to repairing our species without harming yours. You are the bridge between two worlds." The woman stepped forward. "Then let us go home with this data. We can help without war." Solon shook his head. "If you leave with it, the others will chase you across stars. They will not allow the knowledge to slip away." "Then what do we do?" the man asked, his voice stronger. Now Solon turned to a control panel hidden behind the wall and pulled out a strange orb, glowing softly. "This holds the encoded data of our people, our failures, and your fusion. It must reach Earth." "Give it to us," the woman said. "We will protect it." Solon handed it to her, but then drew a long blade from his back and turned toward the stairway. "They are coming," he whispered. At that moment the ground shook and alarms screamed through the corridors. The wall behind them burst open and armored aliens poured in, weapons raised. Solon stepped between them and the humans, his blade humming with energy. "Go now. I will hold them." "No. You will die," the woman cried. "We all die someday," he said, "but I choose how I do it now." "Run." They hesitated, only for a breath. Then they ran up the glass stairs, the man stronger now, the woman holding the orb tight behind them. They heard the sound of metal clashing, and Solon's voice shouting a battle cry in his ancient tongue. The halls were collapsing around them, the walls breaking, the ceiling crumbling. They reached the top and burst into the chamber where the queen stood, her eyes wide. "You brought him back," she said, then saw the orb in the woman's hands. "You know what this means," the queen said, her voice shaking. "Yes," the woman replied. "It means we have a real chance to end this without more pain." Suddenly, a new figure stepped into the room, one covered in armor, darker than space itself. His eyes read his presence like a storm. He looked at the queen, then at the humans. "You betrayed our plan," he said to her. "Your softness will destroy us." She stood tall, despite the fear in her eyes. "They are not our enemies." The warrior raised his hand, and power surged. The man stepped forward, holding nothing but courage. "If you want war, then come and take it." The room froze. The orb began to glow brighter, and in that moment, everything changed again. The power between them pulsed like a living heart. The glowing orb in the woman's hands lit up the entire chamber. The red armored warrior stepped closer, but something in the air shifted. The walls trembled as if the ship itself could feel the weight of what was about to happen. The man stood in front of the woman, not moving, not blinking, ready for whatever would come. The queen raised her hand to stop the warrior, her voice calm but shaking with buried emotion. "There is still time," she said. "There is still hope if you destroy them. Now you destroy us." All the warrior's eyes burned like coals. He looked at her and then at the humans, as if measuring their worth, their weakness, their threat. His voice was low like thunder in the distance. "They were chosen to save us, not to escape with our secrets. We never asked to be chosen." The woman shouted, her voice filled with fire. "You took us without warning. You made us prisoners, and now you want to silence us to cover your failure." The man stepped forward again, the orb now floating between his hands, glowing brighter with every breath. The warrior took a step back. Confusion flickered across his face. "The fusion has begun," the queen whispered. "It has accepted him. It was never meant to be forced. It was always meant to choose." The warrior raised his weapon, but the queen moved faster. Her hand touched the floor and the ship responded. A wave of energy pushed the warrior back into the wall, holding him there with invisible chance. "You forget who I am," she said. "I am still queen, and while I breathe, no more lives will be stolen." The man fell to his knees. The orb pressed against his chest. It was merging with him, threads of light crawling into his skin, but he did not scream. He welcomed it. He let it happen. The woman dropped beside him, her hands on his shoulders. She looked into his eyes and saw something. Knew a light that was not his but did not replace him. Something ancient and young, something full of grief, but also promise. He looked at her and spoke softly. "I see them all, the children, the lost, the broken. They speak through the light, and they are begging for peace." She held his hand tight. "Then let us give them peace." The queen walked toward them slowly, her crown flickering her steps. Heavy with the burden of so many dead. "I have failed my people," she said. "I thought control was the answer, but it was always understanding." The man stood now, glowing with quiet power, not as a weapon but as a bridge between what was and what could be. He turned to her and nodded. "Give us a way home, give us a way to carry this hope back to our world." Before the queen could answer, the walls shook again. Alarms screamed through the ship, not from inside but from the outside. Something was coming, something massive. The betrayer warrior had not come alone. His faction had returned. They surrounded the ship with war vessels, weapons ready to destroy everything inside to stop the knowledge from escaping. "They fear the truth," the queen said. "They would rather see our world die than change them." "Let us not give them that choice," the man said calmly. The queen opened a panel and revealed a hidden craft, small, fast, designed for escape, not battle. "This will get you to the nearest gate. It will take you to Earth." The woman held the orb close. It was now pulsing like a second heart. "You come with us," she said to the queen. "You are part of this too." The queen looked toward the warrior, still bound in silence, then at the ship around her, breaking from the outside, the walls crying out in metal pain. "I will stay," she said. "This is my failure to end. This is my duty." The man looked at her and nodded, not in anger but in deep respect. Olin's voice came through the chamber, weak but alive. "You must go now. They are inside the core. They will destroy everything." The queen raised her hand and the walls opened, revealing the launch bay. The small ship waited, the engines humming with quiet urgency. They ran together, the man, the woman, and the orb, now fully part of him. The air behind them filled with fire and screams as the enemy broke through the final defenses. The ship lifted off just as the queen raised her arms and called the ship to collapse behind them, cutting off the enemy from following from space. The man and woman watched the mothership begin to glow from within, a light not of death but of release. The queen's final gift, the ship becoming a star to guide the path home. The woman leaned against him, her eyes full of tears, not of sorrow but of something that had no name. He held her close and whispered, "We are not the same anymore." "No," she said, "we are more." The ship flew through the dark toward the earth that once felt so far and now waited like an old memory. They did not know what would happen next, but they carried something no war could destroy. They carried a future born not of fear but of choice. The stars rushed past them as the small craft moved through space. The man and the woman sat in silence, holding the glowing orb between them. It was warm and alive, pulsing with a rhythm that felt older than time itself behind them. The alien world was gone, not destroyed but transformed, left as a monument to a dying race that chose peace instead of violence. The queen's final light now floated as a soft beacon across the system, a reminder that even those who fall can rise with honor. The craft reached the edge of a gate, a swirling tunnel of energy created by ancient forces, older than Earth, older than memory. The man touched the controls and the ship obeyed, sliding into the gate without resistance. In seconds they were back, near Earth, the blue planet spinning slowly beneath them. The air traffic buzzed around its orbit, but no one saw them. The ship cloaked by alien technology unknown to human defense systems. The woman looked down at the world she had once walked without fear. Now it felt smaller, yet more precious than ever before. "We cannot land just anywhere," she said. "They will not believe us. They will take this from us and bury it like every truth they fear." The man nodded, his eyes fixed on the surface. "We go to the mountains where the sky meets the stars. There is a place I remember, quiet and hidden." The ship responded and descended slowly, breaking through the clouds without a sound. Birds scattered beneath them as the ship landed among trees that stood tall and ancient, untouched by war or time. They stepped outside, the air cold and sharp, the leaves dancing in the wind like whispers from another life. The orb pulsed again, as if it knew they were safe for now. They built a shelter with the tools inside the ship, small but strong, blending into the forest as if it belonged there. The days passed. With quiet purpose, the woman studied the orb, learned its language through feelings and visions. The man hunted, gathered, watched the skies with silent thoughts. One night, the orb revealed something. They had not expected, a message hidden deep inside from the queen, recorded in her final moments, her voice soft but strapped. You are hearing this, then you have survived and Earth is not lost. Within this orb lies the future of two species, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as partners. You must find those who still dream, those who do not fear the stars, and give them this light. Use it wisely, for once awakened it cannot be silenced. The message ended and the orb glowed brighter than ever. Before, we cannot hide this forever, the woman said. The world needs to know. They will come for it. The man said, not just your people, but others from out there, those who still believe Earth is weak, easy to take. Then we must make it strong, not with war, but with truth, she said. They packed their things and left the mountains, traveling in secret to cities and towns, talking to people who had seen things they could not explain, those who had lost time, seen lights in the sky, heard voices in dreams. One by one they gathered a circle, not of power but of belief, people who were ready to accept that humanity was no longer alone, that something greater was waiting beyond the clouds. They formed a council hidden from governments, from corporations, from those who feared change. The man and woman led not as rulers but as guardians of the truth. The orb was placed at the center of their hidden chamber, deep underground, where machines hummed with energy, not of Earth, where knowledge from the stars flowed into computers and minds alike. The fusion that had once been forced was now offered freely to those who chose it carefully, safely, with honor. Some rejected it, afraid of what it meant. Others embraced it and became something more, not alien, not human, but a bridge between worlds, just like the man had become. News began to spread, not in headlines but in whispers, stories of healing, of dreams, shared across miles, of people waking up, knowing things they had never studied. The governments noticed too, and they began to search, but the council stayed one step ahead, protected by technology beyond understanding, and by the will of those who believed. Then, one night, the man stood beneath the stars and the orb pulsed brighter than ever before. It had awakened fully. He turned to the woman and she smiled, knowing what it meant at this time. She said, the next phase begins. Now they activated the beacon within the orb, a signal not of war but of invitation. It reached beyond Earth, across the stars, calling to those who had once turned away, who had once feared humanity. And someone answered. A ship appeared above the forest, silent and silver. It landed without fear, and from it stepped beings of light, not from Elthara, but another race, curious, open, willing to talk, willing to listen. The man stepped forward, his hands open, his eyes steady. Welcome to Earth, he said. The journey was far from over, but the first bridge had been built, not by force, not by fear, but by two humans who were taken against their will, and chose to rise above it. They had been chosen once, now they chose for themselves. The ship that landed in the forest was not like the one that had taken them before. Its design was smooth, with curves like wind over water. No weapons, no guards, no cages, only silence and soft light. The man and the woman stood side by side, watching as a door slowly opened and a being stepped out. It was tall, with skin like melted gold and eyes that shimmered with every color. They had no mouth, yet they spoke without sound. Their voice entered the mind like a song already known. We heard the call. The woman stepped forward, her hand resting on the orb, which now floated in the air, pulsing with calm strength. We carry the hope of a dying race, and the warning of a dying world. We come in peace, and we seek peace. The golden being moved closer, their presence warm without threat. Your species has much pain, much fear, yet you reached for unity when others chose destruction. We did not reach alone, the man said. We were pulled, taken, used, but through that we found a path forward, and now we walk it with purpose. The being nodded, and more of their kind stepped out. None carried tools or weapons, only curiosity. They looked at the earth, not with greed, but with wonder. The forest whispered with wind, as the orb rose higher, casting a circle of light that touched both human and alien alike. For a moment, there was no difference, no distance, no fear, only connection. The man spoke again. We cannot promise peace from all of Earth. Many still fear what they do not understand, but we can promise truth, and we can promise those who follow it will not stand alone. The being turned toward the ship, and a new figure appeared, smaller, wrapped in fabric that moved like mist. The figure stepped closer and lifted a hand, revealing something unexpected. A child with skin like pale stone and eyes that glowed faint blue. The woman gasped, not from fear but recognition. The child was not fully alien nor fully human. She turned to the man, and he understood without words the queen's legacy had survived. Not just in data, but in life, the golden being explained. This child was born from the last gift of your queen. Her energy passed through the orb. It found a willing form among our kind and shaped life anew. We did not expect it, but we welcomed it. The child looked at them, not with confusion but with understanding. The connection was instant, as if time had folded and placed all the broken pieces in one place. The woman knelt and held out her hand. The child walked forward without fear, and placed their small hand in hers, and the orb glowed brighter. The circle was complete. From that day, the council grew stronger, its reach silent, but steady across the earth. Whispers became discussions. Discussions became plans. Soon, new sanctuaries were built, places where those willing to understand could meet, and all were ready. Many feared what they heard. Some tried to stop the spread of truth, calling it dangerous, unnatural, but those who had seen the stars, who had felt the connection, could not be silenced. The man became a teacher, not of power but of patience, guiding those who struggled with the new thoughts, the new visions. The woman became a bridge between the stars and earth, learning the languages of light and bringing back messages filled with stories of survival and hope. The child grew quickly, not just in size but in understanding. They could touch a machine and know its purpose. They could place their hand on a tree and feel its history. They dreamed in colors Earth had no name for. When they laughed, even the wind seemed to pause to listen. But peace was never without price. Those who wanted control, those who saw unity as threat, gathered in secret, dark corners of the world, planning ways to break what had been built. One night, the council received a warning. A human ship had been stolen by a rogue group, and armed with stolen technology, they planned to destroy one of the sanctuaries to send a message. Man and the woman left at once with the child and the orb. They reached the sanctuary. Before the attack could fall, they stood at the edge of the forest, waiting for the enemy to arrive. When the ship appeared above them, the child stepped forward, the orb in their hands. It pulsed once, and a wave of energy spread outward, shutting down the ship without harm, freezing its systems. Like sleep, the attackers were confused, helpless, unarmed before a child who carried only light. You came with hate, the child said, but I offer peace. You can leave and never return, or you can stay and learn. The ship turned and left. The sanctuary remained untouched. After that, more began to believe. They saw that strength did not always come from weapons or fear. Sometimes it came from choosing not to destroy. The man and the woman stood with the child beneath the sky where stars now felt closer than ever. They had walked through pain, through silence, through fire, and they had found a way forward. The stars did not look down on them as strangers anymore. They looked down as witnesses to something new, something powerful. The age of fear was ending. A new story had begun. Years had passed since the stars first called to Earth, and two strangers were taken against their will. The world had changed, not in fire or war but in slow ripples, like water touched by light. The council had grown from hidden roots into something deeper, a network of minds and hearts joined by vision, not by control. Across the oceans and deserts and skies, people had begun to dream again. Not just of reaching the stars but of understanding them. They built sanctuaries not for worship but for learning, and from those sanctuaries came ideas that reached far beyond what Earth once believed was possible. The man, now older, walked through a quiet field where flowers once native to the alien world of Elthra now bloomed, their scent soft, their glow gentle. He touched one and closed his eyes, feeling not just its presence but its memory, how it grew, how it breathed, how it listened. The woman sat nearby, watching the sky with a small smile. She had grown in more ways than time could show. Once afraid, now she was the voice others listened to when they doubted, when they hesitated, when they feared. Beside them, the child who had once glowed faint blue now stood tall, a being shaped by two worlds and yet belonging to something beyond either. Their hair shimmered with color that changed under sunlight. Their eyes saw through lies, through pain, through confusion, and replaced it with clarity. They had become a symbol not of difference, but of unity. The orb still floated near them, not as bright as before, but still alive, pulsing with a steady, calm rhythm. The man once fused with it now no longer needed its power, yet it remained with him, as if bonded by purpose. Today was different though. Today they stood together at the edge of a launch platform deep in the forest, beneath stars that no longer looked distant. A ship stood before them, crafted from the bones of Eltheran design and strengthened by Earth's spirit. Not a warship, not an escape vessel, but a messenger. The council had decided the time had come. Earth would no longer wait for others to find it. Earth would reach out, not with demand but with invitation. The ship would carry ambassadors, voices, storytellers, carriers of peace and vision, across the stars, and it would be led by those who once were taken, and now walked freely. The man, the woman, and the child would go together. They stood before a crowd, not of leaders or armies, but of farmers, builders, teachers, children, people who had seen the change and chosen to follow it. The woman spoke first, her voice soft but full of strength. We began this journey without choice, without control. We were pulled into something we could not understand and feared. We would not survive, but through pain came understanding, and through loss came light. The man stepped forward. Now we go not to escape, but to offer what we have become. We are not perfect, we are not complete, but we are ready to share. Not just with those who gave us their gift, but with all who listened. Then the child stepped forward, their voice clear as the sky. Was born not of one world, but of two, not of one people, but of many. I am the bridge between what was and what could be. I do not carry fear, I carry light, and today, we light the path for others. Silence fell as the ship opened its doors, and the three stepped inside. The orb floated behind them, humming like an old friend. The engines stirred not with fire, but with song, of frequency that touched the heart, not the ears. As the ship lifted into the sky, the people below placed their hands to their hearts, not as a salute, but as a promise to remember, to carry forward, to never turn back into fear. Higher and higher they rose until the earth was a curve of blue and green, a planet no longer small, no longer alone. The stars opened before them, not as a void, but as a garden waiting to be walked, not conquered. Inside the ship the man took the controls, the woman mapped the path ahead, the child watched the stars, as if speaking to them without words. Suddenly, the orb pulsed again, and a new voice spoke. Not the queen, not the council, not the systems, but something new. It said, the future is awake. They smiled, not because they had all the answers, but because they were no longer afraid to ask the questions. The stars no longer waited, they welcomed, and earth no longer hid it. Reached from pain to purpose, from silence to song, from being taken to choosing freely. Their story had found its end, but for others it was only the beginning. The ship drifted beyond the last light of the solar system, into a quiet part of the stars, where time felt slower and thoughts felt louder. Inside the cabin, the man, the woman, and the child sat in silence, not because there was nothing to say, but because silence had become a language of its own. The man looked out the window at the distant galaxies ahead, and he remembered the first night when the sky tore open, when he had no control, when fear had been the only thing real. Now he looked into the same stars and felt no fear, only understanding. The woman closed her eyes and placed her hand over the orb. It no longer pulsed, it rested as if sleeping, its purpose fulfilled. Yet she knew its silence was not an end, but a beginning, a waiting breath before the next journey. The child stood near them, watching space through their glowing eyes. They were neither of Earth nor entirely of the stars. They had grown through pain and love, through questions and courage, through lessons learned not from books, but from moments. They reached forward and touched the glass. In that moment, something strange happened. The stars began to shimmer, not just with light, but with memory. The woman saw her old life, the days when she walked the city streets unaware of anything beyond the sky. She saw herself sitting alone on a bench. The night she vanished and felt no anger, just a strange gratitude that from that stolen moment came something beautiful. The man saw the truck he once stood beside, the tools in his hand, the quiet job he never got to finish, and he smiled, not because he missed it, but because it reminded him that life does not always follow the road we expect, and sometimes that is the gift. The child saw nothing behind them, only ahead, and that was their gift to the future. The ship glided quietly between stars, and soon a signal arrived, soft, not demanding but curious, another voice from the dark asking, "Who are?" Youth men reached for the controls. The woman placed her hand beside his. The child whispered into the signal, and together they answered, "We are those who chose to listen when others stayed silent. We are those who carried pain but chose not to pass it on. We are those who walked through fear and came out with open hands. We are not perfect, but we are willing. We are not many, but we are enough. We are enough." A light blinked ahead, and a new path opened. The woman looked at the man, and he looked at the child, and the child smiled without needing to speak. They held hands and faced the stars, not as passengers, not as prisoners, not as saviors, as people who chose to love instead of fear, who chose to give instead of take, who chose to understand instead of demand. As the ship disappeared into the next light, Earth remained behind, but not alone, because once a single voice chooses peace, the echo can last forever. Because sometimes being taken is not the end, sometimes it is how the real story begins. The Stars welcomed them, not as strangers but as family, and the universe felt just a little less dark.